Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Career Conversations. Before I jump into business as usual, I want to take a moment of silence to acknowledge what today is. That this is a day of remembrance for our country as we reflect on the many, many blessings that we have and also the loss and the grief that we've all experienced as a result of the events of 9/11. So if you all just take a moment with me just to pause. All right. Thank you all for taking a moment of reflection. We're going to get started with today's episode. Hello and welcome to Career Conversations. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. Today's guest is Miss Ivoire Lloyd. Ivoire Lloyd. I knew I was going to butcher it. I'm so sorry, Ivory. But I want to talk to you all about her career journey. She's going to talk about the last 17 years as a senior marketing proposal manager, currently at SYSTRA. So if you guys have got questions, please, feel free to chime in the comments. But right now, I want to welcome Ivory to the show. Thank you.
Hello, how are you? And happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. How's it going?
Oh, it's going. It's busy. It's been a busy week. With having Monday off, it's been busy.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people like a 4-day week is a gift and a curse in this business because really you just end up trying to cram 5 or 6 days of work in 4.
This is true. This is true. Yes. Labor Day.
When you're supposed to be rested.
Nope, no pun intended.
Oh, okay. So you're a senior marketing proposal manager.
Yes.
What does your family think you do when you tell them that's your job?
They just automatically assume writing proposals. Oh, do you write grants? Are you a grant writer? So then you have to explain, no, we coordinate the efforts of the proposal to get the proposal written with the technical leads to win work. So they just think I'm a grant writer and I apply for grants to get money. So they think completely opposite of what the actual role is until I sit there and explain it to them.
Yes. So what would you say is like your actual role? What does that look like for people who think you're maybe a grant writer?
So it's coordinating efforts. We work with SYSTRA works with a lot of transit agencies, architectural design, buildings. So it's coordinating the efforts. We get the RFP, we lay out the outline. We're pretty much the herder of everyone. We get everyone together. We keep the deadlines, of course. Proposals are strict deadlines, that very heavily deadline driven. You can miss if you are a minute late to submitting a proposal, that proposal will be rejected and returned to sender. So it's heavily focused on coordinating efforts and keeping the deadlines and making those deadlines are met.
Yeah, deadlines are really, truly deadlines in this business. It sounds like I'm speaking from the perspective of making sure that my audience gets the full perspective. I work in the industry as well, but I want to make sure that we share with people who may not be as familiar all the ins and outs. So you talk about a deadline and being a minute late. I mean, what happens if you're a minute late? I mean, is it just...
Thankfully, I have never been in that situation. But although I can speak to an experience where it was recorded that the proposal and the system, this particular agency was due at 2:00, although it was officially due at 4. So by no means would we ever show up to an agency to hand deliver a proposal 2 hours late, right? We know when it's due. So of course, my heart dropped. I had my cell phone fully charged to pull up the email from procurement to show them, because I actually inquired what time it was due.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it in the RFP solicitation. Um, and they accepted it. They just had to mark it a certain way. I don't know if the system wasn't updated properly. But needless to
Ah.
say, my life flashed before my eyes.
Cool. Yeah,
And
that feeling.
yeah,
It's
it
like,
was.
ooh, you just blew like tens of thousands, if not dollars, in labor. Like,
Mhm, mhm,
ooh.
mhm.
Oh,
It,
it's a
it,
feeling.
it was scary. So we get the RFP. You comb through it. You get every due date from questions for clarification, to site visits, any site tours. Sometimes there are mandatory pre-proposal visits. If you don't, and what that means is if you don't attend this visit or phone call, you cannot bid on this particular pursuit. So it's known what's mandatory, and 9 times out of 10 they are not mandatory, but it's still good for your technical leads to attend. Then we schedule a kickoff, and that's where we get the top key writers of the pursuit in one room, or in this case, one video call. And
Yeah.
then we set up the outline. We talk about teaming. I contact the sub consultants. They have requirements. They have forms. So it's deadlines for the subs as well, because they have to get their technical write-ups to the scope of work to the tech lead who puts it together. It's creating an org chart. It's gathering the resumes. It is tailoring the resumes for this particular pursuit.
Yeah.
It's making sure the projects meet the requirements of the RFP, and then designing it, putting it all together, sometimes in Word, sometimes in InDesign. And then the next step would be the red team. So there's drafts in between, but then the red
Yes.
team is a final page turn of the document. And then the green team, of course, because money is green, that's
Right.
when we go over pricing. Then there's a final QA, and then it's submitted.
Yeah. So there's a lot of steps to kind of keeping this whole process on time. It's
Hmm.
coordinating with subs, it's coordinating with the technical people internally, making sure that the price proposal is done and done
Hmm.
well. But Brittany posed a really good question. This is what one of the reasons I was like, I know this interview is going to be challenging from my end to make sure the audience really understands what
Oh,
the work is.
okay.
She said, what is an RFP? Which is a great question because like I know what this is because I work in the
Oh,
industry, but people outside may not. So would you like to respond to
sure.
her question?
So RFP stands for request for proposal. Another interchangeable term would be an RFQ, which is usually a first step, depending on our agency, which is request for qualifications. And that's just to see if you meet, the first 5 points, if you have the basics to be qualified to get the RFP, which is sometimes the next step. An RFQ might be a 10-page document. In our industry, it's SF 330, which is a standard government form across the board for everyone. And it has the same template, 10 projects, unlimited staff. Everything is broken down by A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Um, and each section, they look at that to qualify you to get the RFP. So if it's a two-step procurement, and you don't make it past step one, you will not get the request for proposal or RFP.
Yeah, a great question, Brittany. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm like, how do I make sure that I don't get sucked into the jargon piece of this and start,
Mhm, mhm,
off of square one? Realize I'm like not everybody, and I typed it out. So we say standard form 330. A lot of times you'll see it as SF 330.
mhm.
You can Google it and find the forms pretty easily if it's something someone's interested in learning a little bit more about. But thank you for like really just breaking it down for people to understand. Like RFP, RFQ is a lot of acronyms
Oh,
involved
it's
in this business.
heavily acronym. LOI, letter of interest.
Lots and
It's a
lots of
lot.
acronyms,
Mhm, mhm,
which is one of the things that for me made it appealing. Like studying journalism, we have to dissect and learn stuff and get comfortable with acronyms. So it's
mhm,
really really a good sort of transition if you've got that sort of background too.
mhm.
So we talked a little bit about like how as I joke sometimes, say professional cat herder. It sounds like you've got a lot going on. What are some tips or advice you might offer somebody in terms of managing that sort of process? Like, what are some of the things you've learned over the years that have been kind of your go-tos to get things done?
I
To
would
keep them on track.
say organize your emails.
Mhm.
Being a prime, I would say 80% of the time, some of these proposals might have 10 to 20 sub-consultants, right?
Mhm.
So how do you deal with 20 consultants emailing you random times a day? And this might not be your only proposal. Sometimes we'll have 3 on our plate, right?
Mhm.
And they'll be different subs and it might be the same subs. So what I like to do, I don't do a BCC unless it's a general, this is a course proposal template. But how I organize the sub-consultants, I put, of course, the proposal in the subject line, and then in parentheses, I put the prime's agency's name. And then if they're a DBE, a WBE, a MBE, so everything is right there. So if it's a NYCT dash whatever proposal, and then the agency, and then the sub-consultant, and then if they're a WM, now it's veterans. So this way, as soon as their email comes in, I see exactly what proposal that's for, and then I create subfolders in my Outlook. So my Outlook, oh, that's another. So every proposal has its own folder in my Outlook.
Mhm. Me
I
too.
start I start with the due date, the agency, what the proposal is, and then in that folder, I have the subfolders of the sub-consultants. So as soon as their emails come in, I drop their content in that subfolder. And same way with how we save the work on our network. It's the proposal folder, and then it's a sub-consultant folder with all of their information. So
Yeah.
when we have sub-consultants that we might double dip on for 2 proposals at the same time, sometimes the lines get crossed as far as what proposal it is that they're referencing. So you just have to quickly change the subject line or read through
Mhm.
the original email. And I've been guilty of receiving emails with no subject line. And
That's the
having to
worst.
quickly having to quickly reply all with what that proposal is so no one else, gets confused in the interim. So it's definitely being organized with emails, um, and just making sure your information is understood. So with sub-consultants requests, most of these agencies, the proposal's the same. So just having everything bulleted out, for frequently used sub-consultants, maybe a course estimator, I already have their information on hand. So I'll just do a quick strike through with their bio, right? I don't need your bio, but this is a copy and paste because I need 10 things from a brand new sub, whereas I might have 2 out of 10 for you. So
Mm.
instead of going crazy and just cherry picking what I don't need and what I might need, I just would highlight it or cross it out. And then I'll just put a quick note, already have, don't worry about it. If I
Yeah.
have your overhead statements, don't worry about it. Because
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I'm emailing you probably 10 times in 1 year for a proposal, right? So
Mhm.
I might forget and I might not. So if I know off the top of my head that I have it, then, I try to make life easier for them and tell them, don't worry about it. I have it already.
Yeah. Yeah, that or I'm notorious for going like, this is what I have, confirm it's still accurate. That
Yep.
way, like, because people go, oh, we updated our logo or some just random thing you don't ever
Hmm.
know. Like,
Hmm.
but we've gotten all in alphabet soup because you and I work in the same industry, sort of
Hmm.
industry and space. For people who are not familiar with the terms prime and sub consultant, could you kind
Okay.
of break those down?
Sure. So the prime, they are basically they are the main one responsible for the proposal submission. And as a sub consultant, you might be a course estimator or a scheduler. So as a sub consultant, your role is to fit that particular scope of work required for that particular job. So the scope of work might require a mechanical engineer, or we have an architect, but we might not have a course estimator. So from there, that course estimator would be the sub consultant for this pursuit. And
Okay.
oftentimes with New York and New Jersey and other agencies, there's different requirements. So there's federal, which by federal law you have to have a DBE, which stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and they are
Mm-hmm.
supposed to receive 25% of the cost of the final cost of the submission. So you have to be compliant and you have to get DBEs to fill those holes in that particular scope of work. If it's a state proposal, it's MBE, which is a minority owned business. It is WBE, which is a woman owned business, and then there's SDVOB, which is
Service disabled, veteran-owned business.
Yeah, but we just say veterans. But yes, service disabled veteran business, which is new. So it's 15% for M, 15% for W, and 6% for veterans. So 36% of your cost proposal has to be allocated. And that just means everyone gets a piece of the pie, whether it's a small piece or a large piece, but you have to actively find those sub-consultants to meet that requirement. And oftentimes I know veterans are new, so sometimes it has been challenging finding veteran firms, but I think it started about 2 years ago, and it has increased. But I think now with veterans, it is a challenge, and I think there's 2 more requirements that the state is starting. So I have to read up on that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but there are 2 new agencies with requirements for proposals that's coming down the pipeline.
Okay. Well, that's good that you keep up with that sort of information, though. Like, that's so critical. People don't think about that part of the job and making sure that you're up with, latest legislation and other things that impact the work that we do. So thanks for, sharing that insight about it. So you've been doing this for 17 years. What is your favorite part of your job?
When it's a win. Of course.
Amen. Like that, like I tell people, like, what's the best part? I'm like,
the best part is when it's a win. No, you know what? I would have to say just learning the ins and outs. So proposal wise, so 17 years of marketing total experience, but I also have 5 years of legal marketing experience.
Oh, cool.
And our RFPs are completely different. There's no forms. It's more of a questionnaire, in which you can write to. And when I worked at another agency, it was benefits and compensation and doing proposals for actuary work. So if a union wanted a benefits and compensation company, they would write to this firm and submit a proposal. And it's also question based. So coming into the transit agency, I was not used to these type of proposals in all of the forms. So it took it was a learning curve in the beginning. But being a fast learner that I am, I got it. And now I love it when working with transit agencies as a commuter. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from New York, born and raised. So you work on these proposals and then you realize, I take this train every day. A few coworkers worked on a train station where I grew up. So it was pretty cool to talk to them about that job because, that's the train stop that I rode it every day for pretty much 39 years. Well, not 39 because I started taking the training when I was 14. But no, it's winning the job and just knowing that the work that we do and our technical leads who are the backbone behind getting these stations, either renovated or overseeing an elevator being installed to make a train station ADA compliant, which stands for the American Disabilities Act. So it's having that internal, wow, I worked on that proposal and it was a win, and thousands of people, if not millions, take the train every day in New York. That's how we get around if you don't have a car. Everyone knows you don't need a car in New York City.
You don't need a car in New York. You really don't.
It's another bill.
I worked in New York for like a summer back in like 2009. I was like going to bring my car. They were like, you don't need it. Just leave it. I was like, great. It was the best summer ever. Just like hopping off the train.
And sometimes you can get somewhere quicker being on a train. But then
most of the time. Most of the
time.
Oh my gosh, the traffic. You should just get on the train.
Yeah, just take the train. You get there in 20 minutes. But no, it's knowing that your hard work and efforts, sometimes long nights, sometimes longer than others. And the next step would be a PowerPoint presentation. So you're working with different sub-consultants, you're working with procurement, and then you get that email and that notice to proceed, or AKA an NTP, that it's a win. Right. So not only, staff available, but then the train station, that job is making lives easier for millions of people in New York City, and not just New York. We have offices in New Jersey, 2 offices in New Jersey. We have an office in VA, AKA the DC office, in California, in Philly also. So.
Okay, so you got strong like mid-Atlantic sort of presence, and then you got California as well. It's pretty cool. It's Pretty cool. Yeah, we've got offices in most of those places
Mm-hmm.
too. So, we talked a little bit about what you enjoy. Obviously, like winning, but you also like the impact that your work has on like your community and being able to go out and see and touch these things. I
Mm-hmm.
think that is probably one of the best parts of the job. I have to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Don't laugh. I wanted to be a rocket.
What?
I
Okay, so
did.
you can at least
Yeah,
dance, right?
I did. So, growing up, and this is funny. I think pretty much half of little brown girls in New York wanted to be a fly girl from and live in color. But then,
Right. Fly Girl was it. I was one of those kids. I wasn't even
Mhm.
from New York, but I was like, I'm gonna be that or be Fatima or Hype Williams.
Yeah, yeah, I like to dance. But then the Rockettes, I think the minimum requirement was 5'5".
Oh,
But I was 9, so I was way too short for that. But I knew I always wanted to be a writer. At the end of the day, so I actually found, and it's sad that I don't have the year written on it, but there was this short story that my mom had kept, and I must have been at least I want to say fourth grade. But
no.
it from reading it now, you can just see that writing was always my passion. So I have my bachelor's in journalism and advertising from Norfolk State University. And from there, I always liked to write. And I always said if writing and marketing did not work, then I wouldn't mind being an English teacher because
Hmm.
teaching, also has the impact on youth as well. And I remember all my teachers from kindergarten, um, especially. So if marketing did not work, then I would be an English teacher. But writing has always been my passion.
Wow.
So
So Rocket or Writer, like those are
yeah,
two very different
very different.
different spaces.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
I get you on the short thing. I'm 5'2". Like
Hmm.
not a thing.
A dream deferred. Yeah.
Until they can like help us figure out how to get taller after we turn
Hmm.
16 or so. I feel like I stopped growing at 12. I swear.
Hmm.
Um, so you mentioned that you love writing, that you would be an
Hmm.
English teacher. Also, in your bio, you shared with us that you're working on a children's book. Would you
Yes.
be open to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's about 15 to 16 pages, and the title is "It's Me I See."
Hmm.
So basically, it's mirrored after my oldest daughter. She gets dressed, and all throughout the day, her T-shirt says, "Who's the smartest, kindest, cutest kid in the world?" So she's going through
Oh,
school, and everybody's like, "Oh no, you're the smartest kid in the world," and she's like, "Okay, thank you." She takes a test, and the teacher, of course. Repeats, you're the smartest children in the world. So throughout the day, she just hears these affirmations and she doesn't know why people are complimenting her.
oh.
Until she gets home and then she sees the shirt in the mirror and then she goes, "Oh, it's me, I see." So that's the basis of the book, just positive affirmations throughout the day.
I like it a lot, and I
Thank
feel like
you.
that's something that'll go a long way for little kids everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I had the idea 3 years ago, randomly, just washing dishes. And
Huh.
I have a cousin that has her own publishing company, and of course, with COVID, you're home, you can do more. So I
Yes.
sent her a text like, "Hey, how can I get this book out there?" And we went through the formal inquiry process. The invoice, the contract, and she has the illustrator, the editor. I sent her, what she needed, and she put it together.
That's awesome. Look, Shantae's cracking me up. She says, "Do we have that shirt in an adult size?" Like I'm with you. Like I need that kind of like affirmation in my own life.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay, we will be on the lookout and we will be sharing with the career
Yep.
conversations crowd
Thank
because
you.
look, I need one of those. Like,
It's
do we
coming.
have do we have it in adult size? Oh my gosh. Good question, Shantae. So this book is coming out soon.
Mhm.
Um, how did you make time to write it? I know you got little ones.
Ooh,
I mean,
overnight.
really?
About 9, 10 o'clock. I mean, because it's only 15 pages, and not to downplay it, but it was an overnight effort. You have to
Okay.
wait until the kids are asleep. Um, most of the time, where I'm at the computer in the kitchen. Thankfully, it's an eating kitchen, so it's large enough to fit the table. Um, but work has gotten busy, right? So sometimes you have to turn off work, tend to the kids, pump, cook dinner, and then wait until they're asleep to finish any extracurricular projects. So that book, the draft and everything was done overnight. And then the edits, of course, sometimes during the day, I'll get a text like, hey, check your email. Because most of the time, Outlook is up for the most part, but she might
Yes.
send a text here and there, telling me to check my Yahoo really quick. But for the most part, the writing of it has occurred overnight.
That's pretty awesome. I asked that because I feel like so many people have these ideas of like how they can balance being a mom and balance, being a professional. And our job is not a 9 to 5 kind of
No.
job by any
Mm-mm.
stretches. How do you make
What's that?
time to do the extracurriculars, and how does that make you feel?
It sometimes, you try not to get burnout, but I think what COVID did is it allowed us to be still. And not
Mhm.
so much be still where you're not doing anything, but when you're home and you're working from home, you can, put the laundry in at 11 o'clock when you have a 2-hour break before your next call. You can run to the supermarket instead of going on your lunch break, right? If
Mhm.
you're fortunate to have a supermarket down the block like I do, you can go at 5 instead of getting off work at 7 o'clock, coming home at 8, 9, and then you have to get takeout because it's just, everything's closed, right?
Mhm.
So it's just squeezing that time in between meetings. It's knowing if you can take a half day, right? So
Mhm.
and what I don't it's rare that I put it out of office. So if I know I'm not going to be available, I'll just send a quick email to those that I'm working with, like, hey, I'm not going to be available from 12 to 5. But if you need me, I'll respond, trusty
Right.
Outlook app on our cell phone. But if you need an attachment, that's when I'll have to just quickly send a note to my coworker, like, hey, I need you to get so and so something.
Right. It's on the
So
drop. It's on the network. Pull it
mhm.
off and drop it off for me, please.
But I think also with sending putting the out of office on for me, it creates an unnecessary chain of emails. So I'd rather just not
Yes.
have someone, get my out of office and email somebody else when I can just respond, hey, I'll get it to you in like 2 hours. So I would say definitely using Outlook for time management. Whether it's doctor's appointments for the kids. I definitely put everything in my Outlook. Even pumping, right? I have to pump by a certain time or else everything starts to hurt. So when we were in the office, 1 o'clock, that was pump time. Right. I
Yeah.
put a note on the door. I'm
Like do not
here.
enter.
Yeah, I'm here, but went to go pump, just so everyone knows if they're looking for me, okay, I'm in a room somewhere, getting nutrition for my daughter. So it's just trying to schedule everything through Outlook and just taking time for yourself. Like I said, if you have a half day, stretch your legs, go for a walk around the block. Um, Sometimes, being home with the kids, going to the supermarket has kept me sane, right? Even it's
Hmm.
just walking slowly in the aisle. It's just having that me time, get a manicure at 5 o'clock, when it's officially the end of your work day, and then come back and finish that project if you have the time between 6 and 7. So if you can squeeze some stuff in, I would definitely take advantage of it, and you can still get your work done. You're still productive. It's just
Yeah.
nothing is closed when you get home as opposed to when we were in the office, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense because then it's like there is no flexibility, like you said, to now go to the grocery store. That
Hmm.
time is gone. It's now pick up some takeout
Hmm.
or have angry children.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, look, this resonated with Shantae. She said unnecessary chain of emails. That's so true. May adopt that no out of office. Like, yeah, I kind of like that too because it's so much of now I gotta call this person. This person's emailing me.
Hmm.
Hey, did you get so and so? I'm like, just we can keep it real simple.
Hmm. Or just wait for it, right? If you really don't need it, wait till tomorrow. So
Yeah.
a good habit I have, I always ask, when do you need this by? Um,
Yes.
do you, and then sometimes, of course, it's, oh, I need it as soon as possible. Okay, so what time of day do you need it? Do you need it at
Right.
10 a.m. or
Or
can it
like
wait
three.
until 3? Yeah. Can you wait until 3 o'clock? Because if you can wait until 3, now I'm not stopping what I'm doing. I'm not stopping in the middle of something or, interrupting the email that I need to get out and sending and, hitting send too fast because, my train of thought was broken. So it's definitely,
Yes.
do you need it at 10 or do you need it at 3? Right. And then also, and I talk about this often, communicating other things that you're working on, right? Because
Yes.
you might have those 3 proposals, and out of those 3 proposals, 2 of them might be with one person and one might be with another. So it's just letting everybody know, I'll be happy to get you this, but I'm also working on this for so and so, right? And I'm
Yeah.
also working on 2 proposals with so and so. So they know, of course, your workload because you're working with them, but someone else might not know. So just communicating.
And I've had to learn that habit too. It's go, hey, look, I got 2 proposals, a short list, and this is what's happening right now.
Like, do you really need it now? Is this something that can, wait a couple of hours? Because if so, I'd be happy to get it to you. I just can't do it in the 30 seconds that you might think you need it. So it's just reinforcing, when do you need it by, what time of day, and just, reassuring them that you'll get it to them. You just won't get it to them in 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I've talked to some people who said, look, I've got a personal policy. I let people know, I'll respond in 24 to 48 hours to your email because I want to actually take the time to read what you're saying and give you a thoughtful response rather than rapid fire. I don't know how well that would actually work in the industry and what we do because it's so deadline driven, but it's been one of those things where I've had to just kind of retrain my own brain of like, does this need to be answered right now? Or can I just do this? And I've heard some people say, look, I only check my email twice a day. I check it in the morning, and I check it in the middle of the day. I was like, what planet do you live on? But I guess the other side of that is, I was like, you only check your email twice a day? I'm like, I don't know if I could ever imagine. Maybe like top of the hour or something, but it's kind of crazy. Let's see. We've got a question from Ramsey. She said, I may have missed this, but are you 100% working remotely, or are you in the office a couple or a few days a week?
So right now I am 100% remote. We actually went in the office on a staggered hybrid schedule. So I think July was phase 4. Due to the COVID restrictions and the max capacity in the office, I think we were at 40. So I chose, a Tuesday, Thursday hybrid schedule, right? And flexible, of course. But then with the Delta variant, we are now it's pretty much flexible. But I am opting to stay home. And I might go in the office 1 or 2 days a month, or a week just to get out of the house. But right now, I'm 100% remote, and it works. Let me tell you, procurement agencies have accepted electronic copies, right?
Yes.
With the exception of maybe 1 or 2 that, want hard copies, which is fine, Staples, or go to the office to print. But what I think this has shown is that you can still be as productive and efficient working from your kitchen or bedroom or living room, right? Now you don't have to commute for 45 minutes to an hour. You don't have to deal with the crowded trains, right? Because like I said, I'm in New York, right? I'm in the Bronx, so you don't have to. And the trains, thankfully, haven't been as crowded as they were. I like to say BC, before COVID. So,
right.
So but yes, to answer your question, I'm Ramsey. I am 100% remote.
Yes. And we hired someone recently at my firm, and she was saying a lot of firms are offering remote work options for people because it's effective for a lot of people still. And that's what I'm witnessing. I think for me, I just like the idea of, like you said, there's no 45 to an hour one way sort of commute as a part of it. So those are 2 hours you get back in your day. Those 2 hours you can answer those random emails or whatever else, or it's the 2 hours you get back to like maybe cook a decent dinner instead of takeout. Like it's just, for me, it adds some quality to the day to day, but I do miss people. So
I do. No, yes, I do miss my coworkers. So most of the time, if we turn the video call on, it's to pop in and say hi, or we'll schedule, like a virtual happy hour. But no, I do miss seeing my coworkers. Definitely. That has been the only downside. And also in the beginning, not printing the RFP or request for proposal. I'm so used to touching and printing and highlighting in my Post-it. So in the beginning, it's like I can't, bookmark. I mean, I can bookmark an
Right,
electronic
but it is not the
PDF.
same as like taking a highlighter and
No.
marking it up.
Yes.
Like that used to be
I
like my go-to. That's how I would get through stuff like quick. They'd be like, "How'd you read that so fast?" I was like, "Because I read everything, I highlighted the critical points. So then when you ask me a question in 15 minutes, I can tell you what page to go to." Yeah, so it is not the same.
I do miss printing
Look,
documents because
I'll be
now on
honest with
the
you.
phone you have to do like control F, or you have to find a keyword in the PDF. But when you have that proposal printed and spiral bounded, you can just highlight and post it and flip through it. So I did miss that in the beginning. Yeah, it was
I've
definitely.
adjusted too. Like I was so stressed out about it though. Like I bought a printer.
Yeah, oh, no, we have printed sent to us too. I was like, sometimes I'm just gonna print something. But yeah, no, that was definitely something that I miss, printing the proposal when it comes in.
Yeah, but I will say my desk is less cluttered as a result.
Oh, you don't want to see you don't want to see my. I, I said I need to actually buy a separate home desk, but I said if I survived last summer in the kitchen, what's another summer, right?
Yeah.
As long as I don't have the oven on or I'm done, making the girls a hash brown or something, because it does get hot, right? It's been a
Yes.
few days where I have the fan on full blast. But again, I have two screens. I have my laptop and I have a regular monitor. So, working with different documents. Oh, and here she is popping her head in.
Hey.
Hi, baby. Sorry, folks.
Oh no, look, we've had kids pop in before. Like that's what you started. Like that's what Saturday is. Like it's Saturday. Like this is time for a family. I count it a luxury that people come spend time with me here.
No, and she enjoys it too. So like we're on the team's calls, she sees the boxes of all my coworkers' faces and she's like, hi. So it's cute. And she has a toy laptop now. So she gets the gist of, playing with the mouse and typing. So hopefully I'm raising a STEM kid.
I think you're raising the STEM kids for sure. Like I mean, she's watching and learning.
But yeah,
That's
she
cool.
loves the laptop.
Look, the future developer.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, right? Train a child up.
Sweet. Oh yeah, I chose this comment as Ramsey said. She said, "Totally. If we aren't operating heavy machinery or performing appendectomies, most should be able to work remotely." I agree.
And I think that's one plus with SYSTRA, right? They have sympathized and empathized with this pandemic. So
Well, that's great.
I'm grateful to work for a company that has allowed this working from home model.
Same.
And given the flexibility of it all. And everyone has laptops, right? So even when we started, it was, I might need to work from home because, I have a doctor's appointment, or, the oldest might have, I just gave birth. So I need, she might have a doctor's appointment randomly. So I think having laptops for everyone and then just having a docking station just is, a hidden promise that you might need to work from home one day. So, we come a long way from regular computers. So I think having the laptop usage versus a traditional computer setup does help.
Oh my gosh, yes, it makes a big difference. So we talked about working remotely. What are some of the skills you feel like people need to have if they wanted to be a senior proposal manager?
Woo, you need to have patience, right?
That
Well,
all
no,
by itself is church.
yeah. Sometimes I lack patience, but I think it's you have to have an extreme. You have to pay attention to detail, right? It's knowing when a proposal is due and working backwards from that due date, right? So setting your red teams up as soon as you get that RFP, right? It's put in a due date in your Outlook calendar. Maybe you can submit it the day before, right? So I usually have two appointments added to my calendar: the actual proposal due date, and we try to submit it 3 hours early because you just never know with everything being electronic. Or if you can do it a day early and then working backwards. So setting a green team up, setting a red team up a week before, just so you know, okay, the red team is done. I have 3 days. I can turn it in early if I want and can breathe. I'm easy. It's managing your time, knowing how long it'll take you to do a particular task, right? How long is it
Yes.
going to take me to put an org chart together with 30 sub consultants? So carving that time out to work on that org chart, and it's just being timely with everything. And I stress the deadlines because, again, if you miss that deadline, your proposal will be rejected. So it's keeping everything in Outlook, and managing your time around that proposal due date. And like you and most of us in this industry, you might have 4 proposals due at the same time. So it's pretty much putting everything in Outlook and also writing it down. I like to write out my to-do list. Um,
Yes.
but I also put everything in my Outlook. Questions are due by a certain day. If you do not submit those questions by that date and before that time, they 9 times out of 10 will not answer your question
Oh,
unless
they
you get
don't.
that.
They don't. It's not their problem anymore.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you, like, after this, it's done. You cannot, questions will not be entertained. And you might get 1 or 2 procurement people that you've worked with over the years that might be a little flexible. But for the most part, you have to meet that deadline. Site visits, does this site
Yeah.
visit require an ID being emailed by a certain time, right? Is this form due to
Hmm.
procurement by a certain time? Because you have to realize they're working on other proposals as well. So it's just being cognizant of their time, yours, and sub consultants. And I would also have to say, so aside from paying attention to detail, that would be the most important, attention to detail,
And time
and just
management.
being timely, and then also communicating. Again, that leads back to asking, when do you need this by? But then communicating what you need from your sub consultants as well, and setting those deadlines for them. As a prime, I like to set soft and hard deadlines.
Hmm.
And as a sub consultant, because we have been sub consultants on numerous pursuits as well, it's knowing, okay, the proposal is due a month from now. Do you really need this tomorrow? Is this something we can, get to
Right, because people
within 2 weeks?
will say this is due in 2 days, and it's like this isn't due for 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So it thankfully, you develop these good relationships, and as someone in my position, the person that you're working with might be in the same role too. And then they go, okay, you know what, fine, I can give you another week. And it's thank you because I don't think it's needed, but I'll work with you because I have been in that situation where I needed everything from all 13 subs by a specific date and time, because then it throws off the green team, right? their
yep.
their hours or their course proposals not due to my colleague, and then it's chasing them and herding the cats back in because I didn't get it by a certain date and time. So it's having the soft deadlines and the hard deadlines, and knowing where there's some wiggle room.
Right. I wholeheartedly agree that leaving space. I usually tell people I need it by this, so that there's the buffer of a
Mhm.
little space of like, well, you were late, but we okay.
Yeah. So with me, if I do it Thursday, I try to just say by like Thursday morning. This way I have the rest of Thursday to go through it. And then if I need anything else, give it to me by Friday. So depending on what day I need their materials by determines, whether 9 o'clock the next day or 5 p.m. Because if I get it at 5, I'm not gonna look at it, but at least I know it's in my inbox, and then I could deal with it Friday morning. So depending
Nice.
on which day of the week I need it by determines whether morning, afternoon, or evening.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I
Mhm.
had one of my first supervisors in the business. She said, "Look, when you get your stuff emails, always open that stuff when you get it because it might be wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Signatures missing, just
Uh-huh.
information missing, and just fire it back real quick. Hey, I need
Mhm.
this and this. Otherwise, you will open it when you think it's time for you to assemble this portion and be out of luck."
Yeah, no, no, it's true. And it goes back to organizing, right? Organizing the
Yes.
sub-consultant folders. So everything for me is a numerical system. So my folder might be 0 for Sistra, and then sub-consultants might be 1 through 10, let's say. And it's, you know, that's the number on the org chart. That's the number in the order that I'm putting their information and forms in a proposal. Because if that number is thrown off, then I'm thrown off, right? And that number literally matches my Outlook folders. So Sistra 0, we don't have a folder, of course, but all the other sub consultants 1 through 10 has their own folder in my Outlook, and everything is matched up. So if I'm doing a particular section, let's say forms, the beloved agency standard forms that don't change over the years, I'll go through their forms, sub-consultant by sub-consultant, and then what I'm missing, I can just shoot them a quick email like, "Hey, I need this, affidavit of no change or a collusion form, or this didn't have a
Yeah.
signature." So I try to tackle it by section, and then per sub-consultant. This way, I'm not all over the place. So I try to go through the pursuit that way with their materials.
That is smart. Brittany had a question for. She says, "Are there alternate contractors that submit things to your firm, like in case one drops before the deadline, or is that not an issue experienced?"
Um, Thankfully, we have not had that where they missed the deadline. We try. So what we also do, and I forgot to mention that we have the pink team and a kickoff. So from there, so the pink team is either long before the proposal comes out, but we might know this job is taking place, and from there we'll develop the blank org chart with positions that might need to be filled. So we kind of already have in our queue who we need or who we might need for this particular pursuit, and then the kickoff is when it's officially and formally discussed. This is the firm I want. This is when to reach out to them. Dude, and I've had proposals where we've had 5 subs, but only 3 needed to do a tech write-up, right? So typically during the kickoff is when we already know the sub consultants will have, and I'll give my tech lead maybe a day or 2 to confirm that they're on board. So it's just a process of confirming they're on board within 2 days, so I can send out my emails for the request for deliverables. So thankfully that has not happened. Um, I think maybe one firm, but it was more so with the MBE certification. So there was a backup, but we had enough time to fill that hole. So thankfully, it hasn't happened.
Great question, Brittany. Thanks for asking. Yeah, but no, that's good. I've not had any misfortune in that way either. People are
Mhm,
usually pretty committal. They say, "I'm going to do this." I mean, because they want to get paid just like everybody else.
mhm, mhm. But I think also having, so everything is tracked in Excel or in a proprietary database. I think keeping track of your sub consultants via a spreadsheet, what their specialties are, where they're located, if they're a MW or a veteran, um, even SBE, right? I think Amtrak uses SBE or DBE. And this way you can quickly do a filter, sort. If this firm isn't available, then you can just quickly, go back in your Bible of sub-consultants and find the next cost estimator or find the next scheduling company or the next MEP firm that can fill that hole. So I think just keeping a log of all your sub consultants, because again, if you work with the same 2 or 3, then you already know them off the top of your head. But they might be, and if Brittany, if there someone drops out last minute, just I would keep a running log of all sub consultants, because you just never know. It might happen, but then you have this backup sheet that you can quickly, pull the information and reach out to them versus a Google search. So I would say log and try to document all of your sub consultants on one trusty spreadsheet. So if someone does drop out, you can quickly find that information or reach out to someone to fill that hole.
That is a great piece of advice to have your sub Bible.
No, it helps. I mean,
Yeah, and you said MEP for people outside the
I'm sorry.
industry. It's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Plumbing, yes, yes, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. MEP. And sometimes you might only need the P, right? You might
Yes.
only need the plumbing part of it. So, if you have a company in your sub-consultant Bible that can fulfill that need, then you just know, okay, I might need someone that handles just plumbing from your firm because the last company dropped out last minute. But again, versus a Google search or, racking your brain because,
Right.
marketing folks, we can remember, but then we might need a couple of hours to get you that firm. But if you just have that spreadsheet, then it's just something you can quickly look up.
I think the other plus that when you mention the spreadsheet, is also that these are people you've worked with before. So it's not a
Hmm.
question of vetting the quality of services they're going to
Hmm.
provide. So you don't have to worry about it being a bad reflection on your firm to the
Hmm.
client.
Hmm.
So I think
Hmm.
that's another huge plus versus the Google search method, like you said.
Hmm.
Really, really good advice. Um, we talked about what you want to be when you grow up, a rocket and a writer. We have talked about the joys of remote work and how that has made life a little bit more simple.
Hmm.
Um, we talked about the skills you need to have, and we said out of the gate, patience.
Mhm.
Because Lord knows if you don't have any patience, this is not a role you even want to entertain.
No, definitely not.
um, um, what is something you wish you knew before you joined the industry?
I wish something that I wish I knew before I joined this industry. How challenging in the beginning, I would say how challenging some of the forms are for these agencies. But after the years have gone on, you can answer them, right? Unless something's changed over the years. But I think in the beginning, coming from a legal marketing background and then benefits and compensation and not having to deal with these forms, it was definitely a learning curve. Um, so I wish I knew more about the forms. But now come being engrossed in it, the lobbying, the collusion, right? Obviously we haven't I have has done any of those things, but when you see the forms now and then you hear about other agencies that might have done something like that, it helps you understand the forms more.
And like
uh,
why they exist, yeah.
Yes. So I think from that aspect, I wish I knew more about the forms in the beginning. But again, everything is a learning curve, right? You're not expected to know the answer to these questions, and that's why I'm grateful that SYSTRA and my colleagues they have the open door policy. They were people there that were more experienced with these forms when I first started, right? So it was always, let's sit down. I might have a new agency that I've never worked with, and that's the opportunity for everyone to learn these forms, right? I've had to have meetings um, with higher ups and go through line by line how to answer this question, right? And we might not even work with that agency in another year or two, but it's just having that process of understanding the form, understanding the question, and knowing there's someone else in my place of work who can help me if I didn't understand that form. So I wish I would have known more about the forms coming in, but now I understand them. So
Well,
that's one
that's
thing I wish I would have known more about.
oh, that's great. Looks like Ramsey had a question for us. I want to toss this to you. Um, how do you respond to technical staff who don't see marketing as important as billable work? Some might see responding to your request as proprietary.
Um, so how do how do you respond to that? You know, thankfully, my colleagues understand that, without the marketing and the proposal team, they, we pretty much are like a separate side of human resources, right? We submit these proposals and you write the technical approach to become billable, right? So in essence, we are helping you to remain billable, right? When a proposal is won, that just means that you're still gainfully employed with this particular agency. So it's just helping them understand that without me, there's no you, right?
Right,
So
like this is
unless
a symbiotic relationship.
yes.
Like,
Yeah. So it's, sometimes we joke, and our billable staff, yes, they're busy on proposals. I mean, yes, they're busy on billable work. I get it, but this is future work, right? You might be
mhm.
billable and current now on this particular existing project, but this is for the future. So it's very important that you stick to the deadlines that I need to submit this proposal on time because this might keep you billable 5 years from now. If it's a large
Right.
project, this might be a 3-year job. So it's just as important for you to be billable as it is for me to help you remain to be billable. So just think of the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. So it sounds like your firm has a really good understanding and like how the relationship works, and that really proposal work is an investment in
Mhm.
job security for everybody.
Mhm, mhm. And again, I'm grateful that the my colleagues at Sistra they are understanding, right? So, and I get why someone might not respond to an email in a time, when I need it. But I also know that that person is in the field all day. So that also brings me back to communicating, right? Our tech leads, they will let us know, hey, I'm in the field. They might give us access to their Outlook calendar so we can see exactly where they are that, their full Outlook calendar, right? So if I
Yeah.
know that they're in the field for 2 or 3 hours, they obviously can't get me, certain things off the drive, but they will get it to me when they come back in the office. So I think it's just keeping that open line of communication,
Hmm.
and just being proactive, right? If I know you're going to be out, on Friday, I'll try to get you everything on Thursday, so you can choose to read through this document on Friday. So again, it's just communicating your timeline and just understanding that they're busy as well.
Right.
But
They've got conferences and BD work to do on top of the
mhm,
billable work. Like, so it's
mhm,
kind
mhm,
of being reasonable and less
mhm,
judgmental with
mhm,
people.
mhm. I hope that answered Ramsey's question.
Yeah, she said thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So I think we nailed it for her. Thank you for that thoughtful response.
Oh, thank you.
Because people don't always seem to think there's this tension of, it's like, no, not everybody's divided. Some people really do work as a team.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful that my colleagues at Sistra, it's a family like environment, right? I'd say that if you're with a company for 3 years or more, they're pretty much like family. You
Hmm.
spend more time with these individuals than you do. There's 9 hours. The average workday is 8 hours, right? But then you come home. But if you're there in the office for 8, 10, sometimes 12, and it has happened often, you pretty much grow together over the years, right? You can
Yeah, you
start a
learn the
job.
kids' names. You're
Yeah.
like, how's your pet doing?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm. I mean, sister, they threw me a baby shower with my first, right? So
oh,
it all depends on the people that you work work with. So for that, I'm grateful for.
sounds like you got a lot of good support
Mhm,
and people who appreciate what you bring. That's
mhm.
awesome. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to share?
Um, Let me see. How do I stay sane with this and during this pandemic, right? I think with us marketers, we're in the same boat.
Mhm.
So it's just finding that time to breathe, going out for a stroll or fresh air, or, meeting with your colleagues, right? So we might have a virtual happy hour where we'll set a Teams call with everyone, at 5 o'clock, a half hour. Everyone has their beverage or their glass of wine or whatever choice, poison of their choice, and it's just connecting, right? So I
Yes.
think from there, I would say, how do I stay sane? I just try to be as normal as possible, despite not seeing everyone every day that we're used to. Because we're going into what, a year and a half, and it's September, right? The year's
Yes.
almost over, and now that brings us into year two of this pandemic. So how do I stay sane? Just trying to stay as normal as possible. Again, that's why maybe sometimes I might go into the office just to be normal, because when you're sitting down, you're not used to walking, right? Your legs are sore. I know when I had
Yeah.
my first baby, I moved from the bedroom to the couch, right? So when I went for a stroll around the block, I was tired. It felt like I ran a marathon. So it's just taking that time, just to do what's normal, and not just being stuck in your kitchen like like most of us, or in your home office.
Yeah. Yeah. Making that time to get out and like, and I joke, it's like, go outside, see the birds, get some fresh
Mhm,
air, see the
mhm,
trees.
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
there's a whole world still happening outside.
mhm,
Like, just go have an adventure.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
No, I think that's really good advice. Get out and try to keep
Just get
things as
out.
normal as possible.
Mhm.
I want to thank you so very much for being a part of Career
Oh,
Conversations.
no, thank
I've
you.
enjoyed this conversation and learned a lot about some things I can probably take to make my workday a little bit smoother, like
Mhm,
no out of office. I don't know if
mhm,
that's out, my boss will see. It's pretty easy though. Like, I'm so grateful for him. Like,
mhm, mhm. Well, no, and I think it's also just saying, I'm going to the look, I've told my coworkers, I'm going to the Bronx Zoo with the kids. I will not be able to get you an attachment, but I can respond to that email, right? If it's a quick response, just communicating. I mean, I'm not saying tell your entire your coworkers and colleagues, exactly what you're doing. Your personal time is your personal time. But I think if
yeah,
you have that relationship, you shouldn't be afraid to say, I'm spending time with the family today. Don't bother me. Or, I've had a coworker say, I'm cleaning out the gutters today, and this is what I did all day. So I think it depends on your work environment, your coworkers, and just if you have that kind of relationship, just letting them know, because 9 times out of 10, everyone we all have lives, right? So I think if you work with great people, they'll be understanding, and whether or not they share what they're doing, that's fine. But and I'm not saying I do it all the time, but if I know a large pursuit is in place, or I might need to be reached, I just let them know, I'm going to Ride Playland. I won't be available from 12 to 5 o'clock, but whatever you need, I can respond quickly. Or if it's an emergency, just call my cell phone.
Right. I tell people that, like, look, if it's truly an emergency, you got the number.
And if it's a real emergency, don't call me, call 911. Okay. Call 911. But if it's a work emergency, I'll get to it when I can. But I think again, it just goes back to your work environment and your colleagues, and how you guys operate, and the ins and outs and the webs and flows of that relationship.
Yeah, and I work with some really sweet people.
Mm-hmm.
So Randy says, this was great. Thank you both.
Oh, thank you. Thank
you for being a part of the show and asking good questions and offering good feedback. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Brittany, as well. Like, look, I don't, take for granted that people want to spend their Saturday morning watching LinkedIn Live, of all things. So I really appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you for having me.
Story. Wait, I have one more question. Is that okay with
you? Sure. Yeah. No.
How did you get into the AEC industry? This is like my favorite question because it's like never on purpose. And I was like, how did I not answer?
Do you really want to
ask this question?
Okay. So, funny thing, I actually had an interview with a law firm on the east side, right off of Grand Central Station. And, I don't like the 4 train. I have to admit, it's a crowded train line. And I thought to myself, do I want to be in another legal marketing environment as a startup role, right? They were building a team from scratch. So I didn't know what I would be in for, right? There was just one marketing lead, and then myself, right? So I thought, will I be getting the bulk of the work? Will it be an environment where, my ideas are not being heard? And then I didn't want to deal with the commute. So, and this presented me an opportunity to learn a different industry, which I wound up loving, right? So I like to say I didn't trip. I fell into it. And I'm here and I love it. I love working with different transit agencies and being a commuter. Like I said, I'm from the Bronx. It's understanding what the back end of our transit industry is like. How did the station, get the revamp? It's knowing a process and a procurement. So yeah, it was by chance. And I'm completely grateful. I just took a leap of faith and said I want to try this new industry. And I've been here for 6 years. I made 6 years with SYSTRA September 7th, right after Labor Day. I got the call for an interview when I was in Jamaica. At that time, I was not working. And I scheduled the interview when I got back, freshly tanned, relaxed. And I met with HR. I kept HR's phone number in my cell phone. So when I got the follow-up calls, I knew it was her calling me. And I think I got the offer as I was leaving the other interview. And I went with SYSTRA, and I've been here ever since. And I do not regret a thing. I love it.
That is awesome. But I laugh because, like, everybody I've ever talked to has never said this is what I wanted to be, or deliberately sought out this opportunity. Everybody falls in.
Yeah, I think you have to love it, and you have to like it, right? Obviously. And you just can't think of it as, oh, this is just another job. No, this is serious work, right? This is something that if you don't like it, it's not for you. You have to be timely. You have to be detail oriented. And I thrive on the busyness of it all, right? I like being busy. So I don't mind having 2 or 3 proposals at the same time.
Yeah, like you can't pay me to be bored all day.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It's definitely not for the weak of heart. No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
So I always joke with HR. I'm like, you're stuck with me, right? You're stuck with me because I've had 3 promotions over the years.
Oh, that's great.
I went from marketing coordinator to senior marketing coordinator to marketing manager, and now I'm senior marketing proposal manager. So it's, you know, I always tell them, like, you're stuck with me. I'm here.
I mean, if they treat you that well, I would stay too. Like,
Yeah. And,
seriously.
and I think that's the plus with this industry, right? I think it's, you know, we've worked with marketing folks, the same marketing folks over the years. When you and when you haven't met them. So funny story, I went to a networking event, I want to say 3 years into SYSTRA, and they thought I was a guy until I showed up, because so our emails come in last name first. So I get
Oh.
tons of Lloyd, Mr. Lloyd, hey Lloyd. I'm like, that's my dad and my grandfather, right? I'm actually Ivory. Ivoire, I'm female. And then, oh no, I'm so sorry. So it's a constant joke. So I go to this networking event, and of course, everyone has their name tag. So they see Ivory Lloyd, and I forgot the young lady's name, but she goes, "Wait, you so you're Lloyd?" Now I have to go back and tell everybody you're not a man. So it's been an ongoing, because we've
Now I
never
have to
met.
go back.
Yeah, we've never met, but we've emailed over the years, right? So, you know, working, this goes back to building these relationships with sub-consultant. You work pretty much, you might work with the same 20 people for years and years, right? But
Yes.
in that particular case, it was 2 years of emailing, and we finally wound up at the same event. And yes, I was like, sorry to break it to you, but I'm all female. So we just joked about it, and she said she had to go back and tell her coworkers
Yeah.
that
Well, look, Ramsey can relate. She said they always think I'm a guy. I get Mr. Ramsey Taylor all the time.
yeah, it happens. It happens. So it's literally
Well,
an ongoing joke. I must get Lloyd countless times, even to this day. So, you know, I just quickly respond back, like, you know, by the way, it's Mrs. Mr. Lloyd is my dad and my grandfather. So it's, and then they'll reply back, you know, LOL, you know, I'm so sorry. But I tell them I get it all the time. So it's now it's just an ongoing joke. So
like this is like part of how this whole thing works
yeah.
now. Well, she
Mhm.
said people look. All right, so that people are not confused though. If people want to get in touch with you, they have more questions about the industry, or are they welcome to like reach out? Okay, so here is Ivory's email if you want to get in touch with her. It is iLloyd@sistra.com.
Mhm.
So not 3 L's, it's an I.
Yes. It's ILLOYD.
Yeah, so yeah, I appreciate your time. Thank
Thank
you all
you
so
for
much for
having
being part of
me.
today's conversation. I hope you all have a great rest of the weekend, and we will be back next week at noon with another episode of Career Conversations. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.